The carousel is a simple yet creative design for engaging up to 30 people in problem solving by seeking their answers to as many as 6 challenging questions. One of the concerns with group problem solving is that participants can show up with the solution already in their minds. When this happens, it can be difficult for people to hear solutions different from their own cunning plans. The trick for facilitators is to expect this to happen and to have a great design up their sleeves to deal with it. There are 2 things in particular that you need to watch out for. 1. If you put people in a group and tell them to explore solutions to a problem without first uncovering all the underlying causes, you may generate solutions that might be fixing the wrong problem. 2. It is important that you harness the collective brain power in the room by making sure that you hear all the different perspectives of those present. If we can do this without a few people dominating the discussion, then we are giving ourselves the best chance of creating truly brilliant solutions. The carousel design is just the ticket for achieving this. Step 1. The pre-work. As in the future search, the first step is about creating powerful questions that will be used to challenge the group. Do not underestimate how important this step is. The quality of your questions will dictate how successful the problem solving actually is. Here's a really top tip. Carefully choose a couple of people to help you craft the questions. You need to use people you can trust and who know the situation well enough to be honest about what the real issues are. Let's use an example to demonstrate how to create really great questions. 2 small companies have recently merged. The financial and business rationale for the merger is sound, but, as often is the case, the merging of the 2 cultures has proven to be a challenge. The new leader decides to use the carousel design to get people talking about the kind of culture they should be striving for in the new business. He engages a couple of highly trusted leaders from each of the 2 former companies, and together they create 6 tough questions to be addressed by the group. 1. What behaviours do you believe must be part of our new company to ensure a climate of trust and candour? This question sets out to reveal culture, trust, and candour, which are not things you can easily see. If the question asks about behaviour, then the answers to the question will demonstrate the invisible culture you are looking for. 2. Given our fresh start, what dysfunctional behaviours have you experienced previously that you hope are not part of our new company? This question works because you are not asking them to out anybody doing anything dysfunctional. It's a question focused on the future that they can all answer. 3. What sources of stress should we try to diminish as we move forward? People love to talk about their stress, but rarely do they get a chance to do something about it. 4. In any merger, there are barriers that can reduce success. Which of these do you think are affecting us, and how? This question helps set the tone because it assumes that such barriers will occur and people are experiencing them now. Thus, people are safe to talk about them because they are systemic. 5. What have you most valued about people from the other organisation? This question forces people to look for positives from the other side, which helps get people out of their entrenched positions. 6. If you were the leader, what would you and your new leadership team need to do differently to be truly high-performing? This is a good question because people love to criticise and give their advice to their leaders. The final part of step 1 is to decide who will be attending the meeting. It is essential to choose enough people from different parts of the organisation to provide an end-to-end view of the problem you are trying to solve. In the example, the new leader invites a selection of 18 individuals from each former organisation, the bulk of the new leadership team, and perhaps a few suppliers or customers who have long-standing relationships with each of the old companies. Step 2. The setup. Arrange for a large open room without tables. Place 6 easels at various positions around the room, perhaps 20 feet apart. Place chairs around each easel according to the size of group you have. If your group is 18 people, divide that by 6 questions and you will have 3 chairs per easel. On each easel, write the question number on the top flip chart page, then turn the page over and write the corresponding question on the next sheet. Don't forget to turn back over to the number page once you are done writing the question, and make sure you leave plenty of masking tape and markers at each easel. Repeat until you have set up all of your questions. Place enough additional chairs to seat everybody, either at one end of the room or in a separate room, depending on your venue size. When the participants arrive, ask them to sit in these chairs for a 10 to 15 minute introduction. It is important that the leader provides this introduction, even if you or someone else is facilitating the design. This shows the group that the leader is committed to both the process and the outcome. They need to set the scene for the problem to be solved, give as much context as possible, and encourage the group to be completely honest. Step 3. The carousel. Now it's time for the facilitator to set the design in motion. Tell the group that in order to explore what their new culture needs to be, you've developed 6 questions. Tell them that in a moment they will move over to the working area where they will find 6 numbered easels, each containing 1 question. After this brief explanation, divide the group into 6 groups of 3, the more random the better, but also with a good mix of people from the 2 previous organisations. Have 3 to 5 individuals at each easel. Here's a really top tip. Try to identify the most outspoken or influential people, and in this example, which of the 2 organisations people are from before you implement the design. This is so you can discreetly tweak the makeup of the subgroups to ensure a balance of assertive people in each one. One good way of doing this would be to prepare name tags for everyone and print their subgroup numbers on the back. If they ask how the subgroups were selected, simply tell them that you attempted to ensure a good mix. Ask everyone to go to their assigned easel. Expect at this point for people to be moving in all directions and for a few to not move at all, looking confused. Your job as the facilitator is to keep calm, repeat the directions clearly, and generally help shepherd them all to the 6 new subgroups. Once they are all in position, tell them they will have 10 minutes to take turns writing down all their answers for this question before they move on to the next question. If one person has 3 ideas, the second person can make a check mark next to any idea that is similar to their own, instead of writing down the idea again, and then write down their new or additional ideas. The third member would then follow suit, checking off any ideas they have in common and adding any additional ideas. You can also suggest that they nominate one person to scribe in their subgroup and capture 1 idea at a time from each person so they all get a chance to contribute from the get-go. Once they are clear on the instructions, tell them to turn over the page and start answering their question. After this first 10 minutes, regardless of whether they've finished, tell the subgroups to move to the next easel to their right. Tell them that they now have 10 minutes to add their new ideas to the information already captured by the previous subgroup. If they agree with any statements already on the sheet, they should again make a check mark against these. Having each group write in a different colour can be a good idea, so you can see the differences in input as they are created. It is a good idea for each group to have a different individual start the process for each round. Keep the subgroups moving around until they end up at the easel where they started. They will probably need to use several sheets of paper, so tell them to stick any filled sheets on the wall and start a new sheet. As the design progresses, you can normally shorten the time spent at each easel because there is less to write down. If all the groups have finished writing at, say, 7 minutes, you can tell them to move on, so make sure you are paying attention as they finish. Please note that the way this section is explained is intentional. The instructions were very clear and concise, they were given in very small chunks, and only at the exact time they were needed by the participants. People who are not used to working in this way might either misunderstand what is required of them or just flat out panic. Running the design in this way will greatly reduce the amount of chaos and help you make sure that the participants have fun in the process. In many new groups, it's difficult for some people to ask clarifying questions because they don't want to feel stupid. Step 4, the summarization. Each of the 6 subgroups now has 20 minutes to create a 1-page summary of the information provided on the sheets for their question. This is the one they started with and are now once again standing in front of. They must identify the areas of greatest agreement and any unique statements that are important to them. For example, a brilliant idea may have been posted toward the end and there might be only a few check marks of agreement. If the members of the original group believe the idea is worthy of being presented to the larger group, then they can make certain this happens by adding more check marks to it. The idea is to have a list in some order of importance that is composed of discrete issues that need to be addressed. Similarly, the original subgroup may have new ideas of their own to add after completing the whole circuit. As they go through the summarization process, the main guideline is that all members of the subgroup must agree on what is presented to the larger group. It might make sense to organize the data into truths, trends, and unique ideas using the process described in the future search design. This is the facilitator's call. Step 5, the report back. The subgroups have 5 minutes to present their 1 page of conclusions to the entire group and take questions as necessary. This is not the time to debate the findings, but an opportunity to clarify the points being presented. Step 6, the so what. The leaders are now armed with a range of suggestions and beliefs in relation to the questions posed. You, as the facilitator, will need to have the division leader close the meeting, making sure they thank the participants for their time, ideas, and honesty. They also need to explain that this is a great starting point and to specify what will happen next with their data. It is common for facilitators to forget this final point. You could plan to immediately engage this same group in turning their data into specific recommendations and action plans by choosing a follow-up activity from one of the other 12 designs. Or you could do this later, perhaps with a different group. Either way, detailed strategies will need to be developed to bring these initial ideas to fruition. You, with the leader's blessing, could also develop a task force, one person chosen by members from each group. These 6 and the boss would meet with the facilitator's help to frame the issues generated in each of the 6 groups. How and when these issues would be addressed can differ, but often this group becomes a design group for further problem solving. This is a good way to educate others in the organization with the concepts of design. If you take this approach, ensure that these ideas are reported back to all the participants of the original carousel activity. The biggest error that the leader of this event could make is not to act after such a collaborative process. As the facilitator, you might want to remind them of this fact and the disillusionment and cost to group morale this would create. Scaling the design. This example included a group of 18 people, which gave the new leader subgroups of 3. If the leader had chosen 30 people, this would result in 6 groups of 5. While 5 groups of 6 is an option, avoid having any more than 6 people in a subgroup. Even 6 people in a subgroup makes it challenging to engage them all in the 10-minute sessions. The ideal number of people in a subgroup is 4, giving you a group size of 24 with 6 stations. As the group starts to get smaller, instead of having only 1 or 2 people in a subgroup, it is better to reduce the number of questions to 4 or 5. After all, one of the benefits of this design is that the subgroup members can build on the ideas of others. Here is a summary of the steps with the time needed for each one. Step 1, the pre-work. Step 2, the setup. Step 3, the carousel. Step 4, the summarization. Step 5, the report back. And Step 6, the so what. The total design takes 2 hours.